Okay, perfect. So we'll go ahead and kick it off. This is a webinar we've been so excited for with Psychic Teagan and Marin about matters of the heart that I think they put up together a few popular lists of questions that they hear customers call in about, and they worked really hard on it these past few weeks. And the last 15 minutes or so, we're going to answer some of your questions in the QA box. So throughout the webinar, feel free to just drop anything in there. Just like as a FYI, it's not going to be similar to our Facebook Lives where it's like a free live reading, but just ask questions about topics of the love, like that overthinking question is such a great one because I'm an overthinker myself. So I think that's something we'd all love to touch upon, or just as we go along in the webinar, just feel free to drop something in that you want to know more about. But that's it for me. I don't know if Mara has anything else, but we're going to let Marin and Teagan to take it away from here.
Yeah, take it away, ladies.
Awesome. All right. Well, one of the first questions that we wanted to address is, why am I still single? And if you are single, how you can attract love. So we've got some ideas, and I think Teagan was going to start with this one and share just a little bit about callers, and some callers may not quite be ready, despite maybe thinking that they're ready, and how we can identify if you're ready or not. So Teagan's going to start off with some of these tips, and then I'll chime in, and we'll kind of just share the responses to this question.
Awesome. Thank you, Marin. So I guess one of the biggest things when I hear people ask, why am I still single? First of all, I want you all to know that love does exist for you, right? One of the first things is that you have to trust the timing. Okay. So when I see the idea of a soul, okay, and that soul, I just want you to imagine a beautiful disco ball, okay? And when we come down and we incarnate into this world, that disco ball kind of shatters, if you will, because our goal is to find that light again. We come from the light, we have to try to find it again. So there's many facets of love, okay? So as cliche as this sounds, you have to believe, you have to want this. You have to want to receive it. And a lot of times this is truly about, timing. You have to trust that timing. Sometimes, the way someone loves you is very different than someone else does. And so I feel why are people still single is because it is truly a timing thing sometimes, number one. And then number two, I really feel as if, most importantly, and I know this is so hard to do, so when I say this, trust me, it's hard for me too, but you have to believe, you have to love yourself first, to release that energy from anything from the past and, kind of shake it off. But loving thyself is first, and know that there's many facets of love. So even though you may in your mind go, oh my gosh, I haven't found that deep, deep love, there's still a beautiful love that's coming your direction. Your head and your heart just has to be aligned with it. And sometimes I feel there's unfinished energy, from the past. Wouldn't you agree, Marin? If we don't close out what we had at one point, it's hard to open up the door to that next love and give it a shot.
Exactly. And that's why we speak with so many people that have what people label as baggage and unresolved issues, and they bounce from one relationship. They're so quick and eager to heal that broken heart that sometimes slapping that Band-Aid on your heart in the form of a new relationship or new potential, or just even a one-night stand, somebody that's going to distract you from that pain and suffering that you're feeling from the breakup, or what we call the rebound. But especially nowadays, we are in such an instant gratification society with our cell phones, even dating apps. I mean, everything is right there now. I could have a date tonight if I wanted to hop online and find somebody. And so I think what's changed with this instant gratification mindset is that we've lost the focus of, what is it that I'm really seeking in a relationship? I mean, I remember, this is so silly, but I'm going to share, in my early teenage years, I remember creating a list of these two boyfriends and comparing notes of the good qualities versus the bad qualities. I mean, and this is when I was 16, 17. So I'm just brought back to this time where we think about setting intention. We think about what it is that we're looking for in life, our goals. We all have these goals and these dreams, but somehow, because dating has become so casual or easy or right at our fingertips, sometimes we miss that important step of really getting clear on what is it that we're looking for in a relationship? Are we looking to marry? Are we looking to live with somebody? Do we want somebody that we meet up with once a month? And so really getting clear on the personality types. I happen to be a very go, go, go type of personality, and my husband's very passive, and we balance each other out. And so keeping in mind the differences, setting those intentions is going to really help you get clear and get prepared to be able to receive love. Because if you don't have that focus or that goal, and you just are accepting what's thrown at you, you're more likely to date and have multiple partners and the franticness and all of this very fun, spicy energy, but it may tend to distract you from the real focus of that partnership that you're seeking.
And I would love to add to that too, because I use this analogy and it's silly, but do you remember when you were a little kid and you wanted to play outside and it was starting to get dark out and your mom and dad said, Marin, Teagan, get in here. We need to spray you with mosquito repellent. We don't want you to get bit by mosquitoes, right? I actually use this metaphor a lot in my readings when people say, Teagan, why? Why am I not finding love? Because you still have this person's repellent all over you energetically. Sounds weird, but when you literally whether it's selenite, you take a beautiful selenite wand, literally just roll it over your heart space. And it is so super important to line that up. So people say, well, how do I release that? And it requires work. Like Marin had said, what kind of love do you want? What are you specifically looking for? And when your mind and your heart is in alignment, it's amazing how quickly you can manifest that love. Like, I'm going to date myself really quick, but back when the J.C. Penney's catalog or the Sears catalog was about that thick back in the day, and it was Christmas time or something, what do you want for your birthday? You you kind of dog tag that page. And I tell people all the time, pretend love is like a category. I want you to outline it specifically, from looks to characteristics to the way that they touch you, kiss you, communicate with you, how they are in public. All of this, you have to believe it in order to achieve it. And then you will receive it. Like, you have to recognize you are worthy of this love. A lot of people get caught in their mind space because someone has suppressed who they are or held them down. And finding that refreshing kind of energy in your mind and heart opens up those doors to say, okay, I think I know what I want now. But defining it, I think, is super important. A lot of times we just throw it up in the air and say, okay, well, I don't really know what I want, but when it shows up, I'll let you know. Specificity always guarantees results. So more specific you can be with your higher self and with your heart space and with your guides, the more they're going to understand what it is that you're really looking for.
And I think also in a practical translation, what that means is that you don't have to sit at home and just wait for that one person that you have written this list out, waiting for that person to show up. It does mean that you can still date and compare and learn and grow. That's what the dating process is for. But to keep that eye on the prize, keep that focus of what you're really looking for, and then the dating in the meantime to work closer towards that target and goal. So gosh, the worst thing that I think you could do is just sit at home, disappointed, discouraged. Then you're going to start to go downhill energetically and emotionally, instead of keeping that vibration high and that attraction, feeling good, getting that feedback from various dates, and just being really clear and honest in your communication in those dates that you're just exploring, you're not certain, you're looking. I think that that's a much healthier approach to be taking, rather than going into self-criticism mode and wondering, what is wrong with you? What is wrong with me? Why am I not ready? What do I need to do? I would get out of that cycle or break that cycle by first looking at, well, what is it that I want? Because if I can shift that focus of it being, woe is me, to what is it that I want, that's going to shift that potential negative to more of an action or something that I can search for, work towards. It's going to really shift that into more of a positive.
Well, and quickly, the other one too is that I feel that gosh, I was just going to the stepping stones. So like when people will call and say, I'm ready for this new love, when am I going to meet them? And it may be out a little bit. It may be, 8 months, 10 months. And I say, but you have other people coming in, and they're like, well, why would I waste my time on these other people? Yeah. If this other person is, and I'm like, well, wait, time out. Let's talk about this for a second. If we were up in the mountains on a hike and we came across this beautiful river and we had to cross it to get to the other side, there are steps and stones that we would have to step on to cross that river, right? So I tell people that some souls, some love souls sign up to be that gift to you, you to them and them to you. So remember, like, love has contracts, right? So, like, on a higher divine kind of way. So even though people say, well, I don't want to waste my time, I say, you're not wasting your time. This person does have something to offer you, and you them. Like, you get to decide at what level of heart you want to open. You may find yourself tripping and falling in love with this person as you're going. But I tell people, be open, because not one person can love us the exact same way. Like, we need a lot of people to contribute to that disco ball, if you will, right? That kind of like the way that our girlfriends, when we're out with our girlfriends, they love us differently than in our partnerships, they, family. And so recognizing that it's okay to enjoy people in the moment. Not everybody is here forever, right? But there are people here that are very, very important during that time in your process of love and finding it.
Just a couple more things to touch on with this question, because I know we've got a few more we want to get to. But I wanted to comment just earlier. I was talking about when we're out of that relationship, when we've just broken up, and that desire to fall right back in love, that is a fragile period. And so it's likely that you're just going to outgrow that relationship really quickly. If you believe that you have met this person a month after a really serious breakup and they're the one, just be mindful that the person that you are in that moment of crisis is probably not going to be the same person that you will be 6 months from now when you have healed. So what you're looking for, what you're feeling when you're really tender is going to be very different than when you're really strong and at your best. So when we talk about timing, it's a very generic catch-all phrase that also includes the variety of emotions that you will be feeling throughout your life. And it's best to obviously make more important decisions when you're at your best and you are your strongest, so you don't quickly outgrow these relationships that are just there for the temporary. And last, what I was going to comment on is attracting love, laws of attraction. That's also a term you're going to hear a lot, but like attracts like. So if I was trying to seek love, I'm not going to walk out of my front door in yoga pants and kind of frumpy and my energy low and my energy slouched, because I'm not radiating that energy. I'm not radiating that attraction and that light that Teagan's talking about with this disco ball and light and brightness. I'm going to do my hair. I'm going to do my makeup. I may splurge and put on some jewelry, because when I leave my house, I'm going to feel good about myself, and I'm more likely to have people approach me and strike up conversation. If I've got this smile, if I'm presentable and happy, then just trying to hide out, I'm not really giving the message that I'm wanting to receive love if my body language is like this. So just keep that in the back of your minds. Anything else you want to add about that, Teagan?
No, I think I've got, the only other thing I think we talked about maybe is just that mind sabotage, right? Like, just recognize, I love what Marin, you had just said about allow yourself some time. Like, yes, people are going to come in and out and to help you get through things. But it's a process, right? You just have to trust it and believe it. I tell people all the time when they're going through a breakup, what do I do with myself right now, Teagan? And I'm like, you take all that effort that you have been putting towards this person and you wrap it around yourself, like literally see yourself in that cocoon of love. And it's hard to do because we think, oh, I don't want to be selfish. I don't want to do so much. No, like, this is super important. So sometimes we have to do that Control Alt Delete, wipe it, head, heart lines up finally. And then that's when we can go, okay, I'm ready. It's a mindset, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and if you are watching and have any questions about that subject, please pop it into the Q&A. We're going to move on to the next one, which we've had many questions about. How can we tell if he or she is the one, and really understanding the differences between a soulmate versus twin flame? And is this person going to be a lover for life? So Teagan's going to chime in and really get the breakdown of soulmate versus twin flame, and take it away, Teagan.
Okay, thank you for that. Soulmates and twin flames have always actually baffled me too, to be quite honest, but I have taken some time to really dive in to allow it to resonate. And I actually wrote down a couple of characteristics for both of them, because I would love to hear everyone that's in the webinar, like, sometimes twin flames come with such a caveat. I mean, they just do, because they're hard, they're difficult. And let me explain the characteristics of that twin flame. So the twin flame for me is pretty much two sides to the same coin. Okay. What is it? Two halves of the whole. Okay. And twin flames for me come from divine power. Okay. They're about the characteristics I wrote down were about like sensing you're meeting yourself on the other end. Like if you all of a sudden meet somebody and you're like, gosh, if I were not a female, I was a male, or if I was a male, not a female, I literally see like I see my reflection in you, right? I'm recognizing a sense of meeting myself. That's going to feel like a twin flame. Similarities, almost to the point where it becomes uncanny. Whether, whether you guys went through tough times and they were similar, you grew up in the same places. But for me, twin flames are about deeper connection. And it is truly, I wrote down here, it's to enrich the characteristics of the love. Okay. So sometimes twin flames are like this. It's like, I mean, I don't know, like, I would love to hear what you guys think. Would you sign up for a soulmate or a twin flame? You've got the twin flames, who's the other half of you, right? That sometimes can be difficult, but it's about enriching the relationship and each other. Whereas with soulmates, they're here to learn and grow and discover love. It's two extraordinary people coming together to say, pick me, I want to fall in love. Pick me, I want to see what this is about. Where the twin flame says, no, like there's lessons, but there's more. It's like the priority in the relationship is around the growth of one another instead of the individuality. So I feel like we have a lot of soulmates. I don't feel like we just have one. And so, these linked contracts from a soul level, people pop into your life, and you may hear one of us psychics on California Psychic say to you, this feels like a soulmate. Very different than a twin flame. And I'm very particular about using that word twin flame, because truly, I feel like it's something you will recognize. And sometimes we get caught in that headspace over having that twin flame. It's difficult, right? Like, Marin, have you like noticed when people are dealing with the twin flame energy that it's like, why is this so hard? Because it's deep. I don't want to say it's deeper. I don't like to say that. There's different goals to it than a soulmate. Is how my spirit guides share with me. I would love to hear what you feel about it too, but one is to learn lessons, the other one is to grow on a deeper level.
And I definitely agree in terms of soulmate. We mistakenly use that term as soulmate, and it's so nostalgic, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be an easy relationship. And as Teagan said, it's a relationship where you will bounce off of each other through life and carry each other, and it's a back and forth, it's a give and take to create that growth in this journey that your souls contract to embark on together. Where a twin flame, I think of flame, I think of fire, I think of passion, and twin flames also have a real obsessive quality to them. So if you're at home, like you just got back from your first date, and you can't even work, you can't even focus, it's everything that's consuming your thoughts, and you just feel like, oh my gosh, I met my soulmate. Well, that might be more of the twin flame energy, because there's so much passion that has blindsided you and overwhelmed you and captivated you. But what happens in a month when now you're burnt out because the two of you have just been going 100 miles an hour? I use this analogy of it's like a firework. I use this, if you're a client of mine that's chiming in, I will often say it's like a firework that's just so explosive, and then it just fizzles out. So these twin flame energies can be so great. And then all of a sudden there's one little fight or one little argument, and you see this person from a different perspective. And that fire can cause this explosive, more catastrophic breakup or energy sometime, and you're left wondering, well, what just happened? I thought they were the one, everything was so perfect, they were my equal. So those twin flame relationships can be really volatile because there is so much of that fire energy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Trying to think of I wrote down here.
And one of the ways that you can really decipher, or say you've met this person and we're trying to understand how much emphasis do I give this potential partner? Do I go down that rabbit hole with them? Is it a soulmate? Is it a twin flame? How do you know? And so we've got these conflicting messages that we are getting from our head and our heart and our gut, or our source of intuition. And we sometimes get confused. What do we pay attention to? How can we decipher? How can we tell that it's our mind talking versus our gut or our intuition talking? And Teagan's got some great tips for differentiating those areas and what information you can really rely on to help you understand what this relationship means and why that person's coming into your life.
Yeah. So for me, I feel I've got so much information. Like, I feel like I just have so much that I want to share, and I'm just trying to keep it all. Like, one of the first things that I do the same thing. Like, we as intuitives, sometimes our head and our heart is not always in alignment, you know? When you are making a decision with them, first of all, I tell people, always trust your gut, okay? Your gut will not lie. And it's that almost that punch that comes in where you are like, whether you feel something about a family member and it's unrecognizable. When you feel it, you just feel it and you know. Fortunately, the head will sabotage. The heart doesn't have eyes. All it knows how to do is love. So that's when you have to discern. Like, when you're in a place, you have to ask spirit for those divine symbolisms. Ask, if you like to throw tarot or oracle, like, dive in, set the intention, like, spirit, it's like I might be caught up in my headspace. We all know when we're shifting that card, making it like, fit to the narrative, right? Whether it's tarot or it's talking to a girlfriend or a friend or whatever, we can feel when it's off. And it's truly about being honest with yourself, because sometimes we want that relationship who work so badly that we're willing to try to force that square peg into that round hole. And we have to say, okay, like, this is, this isn't for me. We try and we try and we try, right? So ask yourself, am I hearing this from my mind? Close your eyes, take some deep breaths. When, the topic of love comes up with your partner and you're not sure the direction they want to go, sit in that space. Where do you feel it? Are you feeling it here? Are you feeling it here? Or did you just get boom right there? And recognize that and trust it, because the gut will never lie, but your head, it will mess with you. And your heart, it's just going to love. It just wants to love by nature, right? So recognizing where it's coming in when you're receiving it.
And just what that means to me is when your mind is going 100 miles an hour and you are so distracted, and why isn't he calling, and why isn't this happening, and he was supposed to call me back, and it's been 2 hours, and are we still meeting up on Thursday? When you feel that spiral, that's your head. That's certainly not your gut. And so when that conflict is occurring, if we can put that mental chatter aside and do our best to center, whether you have a mindfulness practice or you meditate, or still yourself to be able to check in with that gut. And what is my gut saying? Can I find just that moment of calmness? Because my gut may be trying to tell me, be still, be calm, but my mind's going a million miles an hour, and it's just going to distract me from being able to find that groundedness and the calmness in my gut. I've also heard the term hut, my head, heart, gut. So it's like your hut, your little house, your little hut that's controlling all of this swirling emotion. But as Teagan has said, and I definitely agree, that if we can kind of peel off these layers and get to the gut, that is the most reliable source. And we say that, but until you really practice that and understand what that feels like, and can adopt a practice where you learn how to put all of this mental chatter aside to be able to tune in to that gut, that's going to be able to be the most reliable source in love and life and anything you do, which is why we will all preach to you, trust your intuition, learn how to feel and differentiate the difference between the intuition versus the heart and the mental chatter.
And then I would love to add to that, because like the word love to me, like, I just think of it comes in so many different facets, right? There's that diamond disco ball again. We have so many different ways that we want to be loved. I would love to ask this to everyone that's watching, like, how many different like types of love, like, what does love mean to you? Like, you don't have to answer that to me, but it's a very unique it's a personal thing, what it is that you need, how you want to be communicated. Many different people come into your life with that, with a different version of love. Like Marin and I were talking last week, and we were talking about the different forms of love that people sign up for, right? Like we all have a first love, whether that's in 7th grade or 5th grade, when and your heart is feeling something deeper than you've ever felt in your entire life. You're only 7 and you get that crush, right? Or that junior high or high school or that college love. We have a first love, and then we have a last love. And then we have all kinds of loves in between. Now, the beautiful thing is that some people are lucky enough to find that first love and that last life right away. For others of us, we want to explore a different version of love with many loves. So I tell people who have, for example, maybe they're blending families and they've been divorced, they're blending their families, and they're like, they'll bring stuff up. Well, my partner, is still talking about, my last marriage, and how do I push through? I love them so much. I say to them, ask them, do you want to be my first love or my last love? Because that's in the past, right? So I feel like love comes in many ways, shapes, and forms. And there's just, I don't know, like, do you all feel like one person can truly fill that ball, if you will? Like, I don't know about you guys, but like when I'm with my husband, it's great. But I get a very different version of love when I'm with my girlfriends, or we're doing sound baths, or, we're doing a guided meditation together. It's just a different level. Do you feel that same way, Marin? Like, there's so many different shapes and colors and sizes that, like, what kind of love do you want?
Absolutely. I'm somebody that was fortunate enough to meet my husband when I was 18. And so it's, I resonate a lot with what you're saying, because he was my first and only. And so you may have this tendency to feel like, well, but gosh, what am I missing out on? And I certainly know that if I was not in this relationship, the person I would pick today would probably be different than my husband. But because of the growth and the challenges and what we've overcome, there's such a depth and such an appreciation that the love transforms. And I'm saying that more on a superficial sense. I'm saying it more, I need to clarify my comment that when you're 18 and you're choosing love versus when you're in your 40s or 50s, I would look more at practical. I wouldn't just fall in love and fall head over heels and everything's just going to all work out like I assumed it would when I was 18. If I was trying to find love in my middle to late adulthood, I would have a very different list of criteria. I probably would really struggle in finding love. So I was blessed, and I think Spirit brought me my husband because they knew I would overthink it. They knew that I would probably struggle to find that partner later in life because I get so caught up in a lot of the details. So that journey of love, even though it just has created so many challenges and opportunity for growth, it is really special. And so you hang on to those loves, and the longer we've been together, the more you do have that feeling that you can just overcome anything because you function as a team. I think because of our time, we should probably bounce over to the next question.
Yeah, absolutely.
We do have quite a few callers that call in about distant relationships. And then after this, we're going to touch on breakups. So I'm going to run really quick through distant relationships and some tips and tricks because, there's been a lot of change post-pandemic. There's a lot of dynamics with relationships and distance relationships, people moving and restructuring their lives. And it just seems like I've gotten a wave of calls in the last year with recent relocations, and one partner moved and they had a job opportunity and they're trying to figure this out. And so one of the things that I want to touch on is this concept of distant relationships aren't really different in a sense from in-person relationships because they still require maintenance. They still require healthy communication. Just because you may have a relationship with somebody that lives 10 hours away doesn't mean that you can abandon that relationship once you have that security of, all right, check that box. I've got a relationship. I'll tend to it when I want to. It still requires the maintenance of a relationship, whether it's distant or in person. And so one of the first things I would really ask that people understand or clarify is, are we on the same page? The concept of a distant relationship for somebody, and quite often I do find that it's more males that tend to like the distance, and they are comfortable with this distance, with no real intention to move in together or get closer or get married, that perhaps they want a relationship that's an hour or two away and they meet each other every other weekend or so. And so there's a big assumption that I find with a lot of my callers, that they've gotten into this distant relationship. And when are we going to get together? When are we going to be living together? And yet the other partner has no intention that it's ever going to grow to that level. So understanding the distance, is it that intention to grow together? And then obviously communication may become more of a priority in nurturing and maintaining those distance relationships, because often that's all you have. So if you are somebody that is weaker in your communication skills, somebody that doesn't like to talk on the phone, that doesn't like to text, I hear it all the time, like, well, why isn't he texting me back? Why doesn't he want to tell me about his day at the end of every day? Sometimes your partner may just not want to, and it doesn't mean that they don't love you or they love you any less or have lost interest. It just means that they don't want the download day after day of just nonsense rigmarole of what they did and what they ate for the day. So that communication can be so much more important to one than the other. So Teagan, what do you think about communication and distance relationship?
Well, I think it takes very unique people to make it work. I think that, both people have to put effort into it. Earlier I had mentioned, the more specific that we can be with spirit, the more we will not be disappointed with spirit. If we say, I want love, and all of a sudden you find this little puppy, you got love. You got the dog, right? Like, no, wait, I want magical love. I want love. I want a life partner, asking for the specific. And I feel like communication, I want to go back to like during COVID, because when we were all kind of put at home and we were trying to, people couldn't really necessarily go out and date. They couldn't dress up and go. So in a sense, for me, the dynamics of dating was very different, because it was about getting to know the person on the inside, not with what they had on, what they looked like, how their makeup was. And for some people, it was a struggle, because some people like that glass of wine to open up on a date, or, just feel super tense. So I feel the dynamics of dating, has changed and circled around. And so having face space now, like FaceTiming with someone, getting to know them, you're actually, you're inquiring, you care. You know what I mean? I just feel like that your heart, though, people want to touch you, kiss you, smell you, feel you. Like you were saying earlier, Marin, like having I was in a long distance relationship many years ago. And I remember it was like every Sunday night we called each other, every Wednesday night we called each other, until we were doing our thing. And we didn't have to touch base every day. Some people don't like to text. They're better face to face. And so maybe releasing that pressure a little bit, or setting boundaries as far as, hey, I'm willing to give this distance a shot. Here's what is really important for me, to set boundaries and a foundation, which means, just to say hello throughout the day is great. Let's talk every Wednesday and every Sunday. Let's try to see each other once a month. You have to go into it with effort. If you go into it without the effort, I just don't see it working. So same boundaries, communication is huge, and, both have to put effort into it, and it's doable. Long distance relationships are beautiful. Some of them are absolutely magical, but it's what kind of work are you both willing to put in? It's got to be reciprocity.
And because of the digital world, we are so blessed with many different relationship apps and communication. And there are lots of resources. There's books, there's couples books, there's ways that you can keep it fun and spicy. There are games, things that you can do from a distance. But just because it's a distance relationship doesn't mean that you can now neglect it because they are in mind so far away, unless that's what you both agree upon. So knowing what distant relationship means to one partner versus the other is real important to clarify at that beginning. And lastly, just the schedules. Teagan was talking about schedules and kind of having this generic schedule in your mind of do we talk every Wednesday, or when do we check in? But I can tell you that what I hear brings the most heartache is when somebody has that flight booked, or when you're planning to meet 6 weeks from now, and you have one partner just hanging on that, somebody that's gone out and got their hair done and bought the outfit and is so excited and ready for this date. And then maybe the other person's just kind of feeling tired. Maybe they got the sniffles, and why don't we just postpone it a week? The devastation that can create for this person that has been preparing for 6 weeks because they're so excited and eager. Those types of situations are just bound to be disastrous because those expectations are not being communicated, and you've got somebody that's just feeling crushed, and the other person's just casually going to go about their day and maybe reschedule in a week. So sticking to those schedules are going to be really important.
Pouring that foundation, right? Like you can't frame the house until you pour the foundation. You dig the hole, you pour it, and then the walls can be built. But you can't just go from I want love to wow, look at this beautiful mansion our heart space has just created, right? So foundation, communication.
Yeah. All right. Well, very quickly, because we are running out of time and want to make sure we get to all of your questions that you have today, we're going to talk about breakups. I'm just going to skip to there's a lot of practical tools. There's a lot of self-help books. There's therapy options. A breakup can create trust issues. Sometimes you are just ghosted and the person disappears. There's so many ways that a breakup can come, and so many ways to try to heal and nurture that breakup. So we broke it down into more of the mind, body, spirit connection. So how we can stop and address that mental chatter through therapy books, how we can address that spiritual connection. I'll touch on that. And then how we can nurture ourselves in the physical, whether it's massage or girl time and dates, or nurturing self-care, self-love in whatever form that means to you. But being somebody that really likes to work with candles and ritual and with tools, hands-on tools, I love doing cord cutting working. So anytime we are in a relationship or partnership, we form these cords. They're like spider webs, if you will. And so this attachment in theory or in visualization comes from that solar plexus, from that gut area. I'm pointing to my source of intuition, my belly button region. I know you probably can't see it on the screen, but that is where the cords stem from when we fall in love and we create these energetic cords. If you were to Google cord cutting exercise, think of cord as in a cord, a rope. We form these cords, and sometimes they are chains, sometimes it's like a little tiny string, but we have these cords. And so being able to not only mentally disconnect and physically disconnect, but a lot of people omit that spiritual connection or that cord, which is why 6 weeks later or a month later or Mercury retrograde is going to bring you that phone call, or bring you a random bump in where you see this person, or you're blindsided by their energy coming back into your life. So just as long as you are mindful that it is a multiple part process, it's that mental connection, it's the physical connection, and also that spiritual connection. So cord cutting exercises, I believe, are really important. Otherwise, you are going to be connected to that person forever. And I know we don't have a lot of time to get into the logistics of a cord cutting exercise, but even in its most simplest form, just envisioning that cord, sitting in meditation, seeing that cord, and what does that cord look like that you are attached to in your partnership or the breakup? And do you go in with a pair of scissors? Do you unravel that cord lovingly? Do you chop it off with an axe? Like, that severing of that cord is very important. And it's also likely to bring that person back into your life a couple days later, because they feel that shift, or they feel like something's different, something's changed, and it may make that individual want to reach out to you or figure out what's going on. So the cord cutting exercise, I feel, is really important to address in a breakup, even if it's something as simple as just meditating and imagining that cord and severing that cord so you are free to continue on your soul's journey.
That's beautiful. And I would love to add to that. And I just because, cord cutting is super important. It's like kind of cutting that umbilical cord, if you will, to something that just doesn't serve you anymore, right? But I actually had to do this not too long ago. And after I was cutting the cords, I literally saw this. First of all, I thanked them. Okay. I thank them for the lessons. And sometimes that's not always easy, because when our heart is hurt, we're so angry, we don't want to thank them for anything. We're like, wait a second, my heart hurts. But if you don't have time to do a cord cutting too, one of the things I love to do is I want you to go into your comfortable place, and you're going to talk to this person's higher self. And you're going to say, Teagan, how do I do this? You are just going to get into that meditation where, whether you're counting sheep and you're seeing the steps go up, 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 you're going to ask your higher self to go up until you get to that cloud that's numbered 7777, or maybe you want 444. I just use 7 because it's spiritual, it's peaceful, it just, 7 days we rest, right? So you go to that cloud, you literally see yourself sitting there, and you call in this person's higher self. So if you have unfinished business from love, things, there was no closure to it, you don't understand why things didn't work out or why they ghosted you, cut the cords, or go to that place, ask to talk to that person's higher self, not their human version, because their ears aren't hearing, okay? But the soul will always hear what it's being called or asked of, right? It will always hear. And so, like Marin was saying, when you go to cut cords, you could find yourself hearing from this person fairly quickly. When you go to that cloud in the sky of 777, I remember when I was doing my healing, at first I came in like just a bull in a china. I was like, how did you, hurt me? Like, this really hurt my heart. And then my higher self stepped in. So I got to say all the things that I never felt like I could to this person. But then I finally started saying them with love. And when it came from that place of love, and I thanked them for the lesson, and I said, even though we're not forever, I thank you for the lesson. I literally unraveled the rope from the dock, and I just watched them just go off into the ocean. They turned back around. I waved them, I blew them a kiss, and I said, thank you for the lessons. Ever since then, it's like that 800-pound gorilla is up off the chest. So a couple different things, right, that we can do.
I love that so much. And I'm
love
so
that.
sorry to cut in, just because we're about to go to time for a Q&A. We just want to start that round. You guys had so many great things to talk about, and our customers seem to have some really great questions that we wanted to get to. If we can start that now. There is one that seems really appropriate about like the breakup section that we went through. That was really great. She's asking, what is the purpose of karmic relationships? I have been told that someone had that role in my life. So maybe touching upon that just a bit more.
Okay. Do you want me to go, Marin, or are you ready?
Yeah, I have an immediate thought, is just a lot of unfinished business and a relationship that previously existed, and some of those issues that were unresolved at that time in that former life. If you believe in past lives, now you have reintroduced one another, and now you are going to hopefully figure it out in this lifetime. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you will be forever in this relationship in this lifetime, but it does mean that you've got something that you still need to resolve. And that's what a lot of people call us for. Why did this person come into our life? What is it that we need to resolve and work on? So when you hear of karmic, that belief in reincarnation and that energy coming back into your life again a second time to resolve the issues this time.
Basically something to heal in a way, right?
Yeah.
In a way, yeah. And I've heard, and to grow, I've heard that karmic relationships aren't just romantic. Is that like from your experience true? Like it can be familial, friendships.
I would agree. I think a lot of our callers would agree, because sometimes you meet this person that you just feel like I'm obsessed. What is this? What is this energy? I don't understand. I don't want to marry them. I don't want to date them. I'm happily married, but what's going on?
A pull, like just a pull that's to your soul. That's from what I hear.
Magnet.
Yeah. I love that. There's also a really great question about overthinking. For Mary Ann, how does one deal with overthinking in a relationship with a new man?
Oh my gosh, this one's a hard one because I think we all do it. We're human and our brain is just going to do what it's going to do.
Mhm.
And again, I would say mind sabotage is human. Recognize when you're doing it. Literally close your eyes, control, alt, delete, removing this energy. I've got to get out of my head. Bring the attentions back to the heart space, right? Because that mind chatter will and can just ruin it for us, so do that check-in, ask spirit, like, why am I so chatty? What do I, or in my mind, what can I do to release it so that I'm not carrying this heavy weight? It's really reprogramming, and it takes some time. Like, one of the things I would love to share with you, it's a quick little tool. If you are, let's say you're ready to step into that new space of the heart, right? You've done the work, you've got your closure, whether it's through cord cutting or talking to the higher self. Every night before you go to bed, this is what I love to do. I close my eyes and I just ask spirit, I intend to wake up in my best possible reality. I intend to wake up in my best possible reality 3 times. Okay. Go to sleep, dreaming, daydreaming. We call it daydreaming, but this is all your third eye. So when you're daydreaming, you're literally projecting, right? And so you're closing your eyes and you're just saying, you're imagining yourself. What is your best possible reality? What does it look like in that heart space? And then as soon as you wake up in the morning, the first thing you do is you wake up and you pop out of bed and you say, I am in my best possible reality for this relationship, for love, for this new job, whatever it is, and start walking the walk, right? It sounds so simple and silly, but I'm telling you, you will manifest, attract, and connect with the right energies that you are asking for, 100%. And that will help you get out of your mind space.
I feel that as an overthinker. Oh, go ahead, Marin.
I was also going to say that sometimes spirit will tend to just correct or right us when we are so brain dominant and overthinking and so stressed, and it just is cycling and cycling, and we just get to a point of sheer exhaustion.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally stop. You can finally just surrender and go, okay, well, I guess I'm going to go read a book, or I'm going to go for a walk, or like you burn that energy out of you, so to speak, because it's just swirling and swirling and it has somewhere to go. So if you don't have the tools, if you don't have a practice, being able to open that crown chakra and imagine that energy, because the energy runs from down at our feet, and pushing that energy out, or trying to push it out, visualizing it coming out. If you don't have those tools, or you don't have a practice to be able to do that or know how to do that, well, for one, I'd encourage you to learn. If you don't, and you are trapped in this headspace, eventually you will just burn yourself out, most likely. And for some people, it may be an hour. And for some people, it may be an entire week of that level of stress. But when you finally hit that moment of stillness, that's the golden moment where now you are actually forced out of having to rely on your mind that's tricking you, and tune into that intuition. Because when you can finally get to that place of it, whether it's through exhaustion or healthier means, finally purge all that chatter. And now what does my gut say? What's that intuition saying? Oh, maybe I can just relax and he'll give me a call this weekend. And that's usually what will happen.
I love that. Thank you so much. Would you say for Mary Ann, like maybe like meditation or like self-concept work maybe like might help also in that way?
Yeah. And thank you, Mary Ann, if this is the Mary Ann that I think it is, chiming in and why. And I know who you're talking about, but yes. And I know that this is easier for us to say because we live, breathe, like this is our world, but it can be a little part of your world too, as well. If you're here joining us today because you want tips and you want tools, implement some of these tools and you're going to be a lot happier. It's not going to do you much good if you walk away from this webinar and you've got a little bit of information, or on the opposite, you've taken notes and you have this list and you're ready to call your boyfriend and demand schedules and communication. Just take a deep breath and bring in some of these aspects and some of these tools that you've learned today. But I think we both agree, it just seems to have come up again and again. And with the callers' questions, really being able to eliminate a lot of that distraction with the mental chatter, with the mindfulness practice to help you.
I love that. Thank you so much. I hope that helped you, Mary Ann. We do have another one from, I hope I'm pronouncing the name correctly, Nesha. They're asking, what can one do to bring love into your life?
So, setting intentions, 100%, the first thing that I always want to do personally, it's maybe because I think as humans, we all go in and go, what am I doing wrong? Why, why am I not enough? First of all, you are enough, number one. Number two, you don't ever have to settle for anything. You just have to set specificity, right? I would encourage you to get a love notebook. I would encourage you to just get like a notepad, and every night I would literally categorize things. I'm going to share a quick little story. A personal client, I had shared with them on how to manifest their perfect love. I said, I don't want you to free anything. I want you to tell me what this person looks like. Well, not me personally, but spirit, what they look like, every category you can think of, the way they hold your hand, the way they talk to you, how they are in public, you name it. 2 years later, she contacted me and she's like, Teagan, I'm getting married. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so fantastic. Congratulations. She goes, I manifested him. She goes, he is so incredibly book smart. And that's what I asked for. She goes, but he won't fix anything in the house because he doesn't know how. She goes, I forgot to ask for him to be a handyman. So we joke about it today, right? Because now whenever she wants something, she has to have somebody come in. But the more specific that you can be, spirit is going to bring you what you are putting out there. So if you're really putting true intention, and I don't want to sound like contradictory, because some people are like, well, wait, Teagan, I'm putting out all of this love, but why am I still getting all of this energy? Sometimes things just have to cycle out. Like, I'll see a Ferris wheel a lot with people, and it just means that there's this pattern, right? So you got to recognize you want to get off the pattern, number one. To look to make sure that you have done all the clearing and the cleansing that you need from the last relationship, so that when you do step into that new and you're ready to call love in and you're ready to go, and say, all right, spirit, this is what I want. Spirit knows exactly what you want, because you don't want to do this and then this. Wait, come close. Wait. I didn't want it that big, that quick, that fast. Hold on. You can't, spirit's going to just bombard you with what your heart is really putting out there to the universe. So it's kind of a practice. It's a date. Wouldn't you say, Marin? It's like, you can't just tell the universe, all right, I want to fall in love, and then just poof, hopefully it happens, but there's work required to it. Like, what kind of love do you want? Are you looking for a best friend as well as a partner? Are you looking for, like Marin was saying earlier, do you just want somebody that you collide into once a month because you both have very busy business life, right? So this, deciding and discerning what kind of love you want, and then every single day telling the universe specifically what that is.
Exactly. Yeah.
Sounds like a lot of introspection there. And then we have another person who kind of like to tack onto that, because they're very similar topics, is from Lorella. How to attract love after a few long failed relationships.
After what? After how?
A few failed relationships.
Well, first of all, I don't feel any relationships are failed. Okay. I think that they're very, very important. Whether there was some karmic, connections that needed to finish up. I feel like people do. I don't believe in coincidences. I believe in things happen for a reason. So at first I would tell you to your head, control, delete, remove that. Each love offer says something different. And when you can look at those in the past and say, okay, you know what, might have not been my last love, but it was an important love. But now I'm ready to level up and go to that next love. So I would want to reprogram your thoughts as far as they weren't failed. They played out their course. That's how I feel very intuitively about it. Marin, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, because, so many people have different dynamics.
And I do agree. I think a lot of relationships that come into our life are supposed to be temporary from the beginning, and we just might not realize that at the time. But also, if we peel off the layers of the breakup, there are so many different types of breakups, but I do feel that most breakups kind of leave you with this feeling of it's more than a hurt. It's more of like a betrayal, which is really the trust that's been broken. And so if you have a series of breakups, what's really eroding is that trust and that ability to commit or be vulnerable in a partnership. So I would encourage you to get really clear on what the real underlying cause of the breakup was, and not take that hurt to an immediate place of betrayal and trust and how dare you, and you pulled the rug out from under me, or you cheated, or trust is a very, very difficult subject to navigate. And we could do an entire webinar on just trust alone. But I think that if I could look at breakups as a whole, what I really identify as the biggest hurdle to overcome is that betrayal and the trust and that inability to understand, well, how much do I give entering into this next relationship? Do I jump in with both feet? And if I've already had a couple breakups, now I'm going to be reluctant to do that when maybe this is the person that I'm supposed to jump in with both feet. And how do I know? And often that's when we get calls from you, but just to be able to help give you some tips to navigate that yourself, really understanding and dissecting the trust and trying to heal that, because then everything on top is easy. It's the trust that lingers.
That's beautiful. And just really quick, just one more for Regina. I'm just going to shorten it a bit. So she's asking, like, she's been getting ghosted guy after guy. And she's wondering, should she be picky or should she lower her standards or go after all of her check boxes? And I think you touched a bit on it, but I'll let you guys take that one.
Girl, do not lower your standards. 100%. Please do not. Please do not. Yeah, go ahead.
I would respond by saying, get really clear on those standards, even if it meant clarifying, which we could easily say, increase those standards or make those standards clearer, which intuitively or hearing this from us may feel like, oh, but I'm going to be so picky. Well, we want you to be picky. We want you to have that clarity, because then when you meet all these people, you're just going to go, nope. Okay, maybe I'll go out. Maybe I'll have a fun weekend, but it's not going to be the one. So having that clarity and then being able to understand from the early dates, knowing kind of what box that potential relationship falls into. Is it headed down that path of the one or not? And I think being ghosted again and again is possibly and intuitively feels like this is Spirit's way of trying to show you that these aren't relationships you get attached to, that your guides are trying to show you, just date, enjoy the experience, enjoy the process while keeping that focus.
I love that message for her. And no, Regina, I would say you're queen, not to lower your standards. There's you're perfect persons out there.
Yes.
But with that is the last question, because we're at time. But thank you so much, everyone, like Marin and Teagan, thank you so much for working on this with us. This is really great, insightful. I love learning so much from all of this information. And I thank all the attendees for coming. And if you want to rewatch things, because like there were so many things we went over, or if you want to share the link with anybody, we're going to have this uploaded on YouTube on Friday. And also send an email out.
Yeah, be on the lookout for that. Thank you so much, everybody. Of course, Marin and Teagan are available for additional readings if you feel like you want to continue this conversation. But thank you both so much. This was extremely helpful and informative. And to the person saying, should I settle? Absolutely not. Never.
That's
Never
right.
settle.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody.
Oh, little hearts. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank
Bye.
you.